I was never afraid of being alone. That's something I used to say about myself with a weird kind of pride, like it made me tougher than other people. Growing up, I learned early how to be comfortable in quiet rooms, how to sit with my own thoughts without reaching for noise. Even when I moved out of my parents' place and into a rented house with my older sister, I liked the nights she worked late or stayed out. The silence felt earned. That confidence is the reason I didn't recognize the danger right away. I'm telling you that now because looking back, the signs were there from the very beginning. I just didn't want to see them. I live in a small neighborhood on the edge of town. One of those places where every house looks slightly different but was clearly built by the same developer. Beige siding, narrow driveways, postage stamp front yards. Not unsafe, but not exactly close-knit either. People waved when they drove past, but no one really knew anyone else. The kind of place where you could live for years and still not know your neighbor's name. My sister and I rented the place together. She's 4 years older than me. Loud where I'm quiet, confident where I hesitate. We split the bills down the middle, shared groceries, argued about dumb stuff like whose turn it was to take out the trash. Normal life. Last October, she told me she was flying to Florida to meet up with some friends. Beach, bars, sunshine, the whole escape from reality package. She invited me along, but I couldn't get the time off work. "Suit yourself," she said, rolling her suitcase through the hallway. "Enjoy your boring staycation." "I will," I laughed. "Don't forget sunscreen." She left early Monday morning, just after sunrise. I watched her car disappear down the street, waved like an idiot even though she couldn't see me, then locked the door behind me. The house felt different immediately. Not scary, just empty. I spent that first day doing things I never got around to when she was home. I deep cleaned the kitchen, rearranged the living room, blasted music way louder than she ever allowed. By early afternoon, I was in sweatpants, hair tied up, enjoying the rare luxury of having the entire place to myself. That's when the knock came. It was around 2 p.m., broad daylight. I remember because I had just glanced at the microwave clock before walking to the door. I assumed it was a delivery. My sister ordered stuff online constantly. I didn't check the peephole. That was my first mistake. When I opened the door, there was a man standing on my porch, early 40s maybe, taller than me by a good few inches. He wasn't holding a package, no clipboard, no uniform, nothing that explained why he was there. He wore a dark jacket even though it wasn't that cold yet, faded jeans, worn sneakers. The kind of outfit you wouldn't remember if you passed him on the street, except for his eyes. They locked onto mine immediately, and he didn't look away. "Hi," I said automatically. "Can I help you?" He stared for a second too long, just enough to make the silence stretch. Then he smiled. "Oh," he said slowly, like he was choosing his words with care. "I just wanted to see who lived here. Sorry, didn't mean to bother you." That was it. No explanation, no follow-up. He nodded once, still smiling, and stepped back off the porch. I watched him walk down the sidewalk until he turned the corner and disappeared. I closed the door and leaned against it, frowning. What the hell was that? I muttered to myself. It didn't make sense, but nothing actually happened. No threat. No demand. I shrugged it off, chalked it up to a weird neighbor or someone who got the wrong address. The rest of the day passed quietly. That night, though, I triple-checked the locks before going to bed, just in case. The next morning, I went to work like usual. I told myself I was being dramatic. People knock on doors for dumb reasons all the time. It was nothing. By the time I got home around 6 p.m., I'd almost forgotten about it. I was halfway through cooking dinner when there was another knock. My stomach dropped before my brain caught up. This time I checked the peephole. It was him. Same man, same clothes. My hand hovered over the doorknob. I told myself I was overreacting, cracked the door open just a few inches, keeping the chain on. "Yes?" I asked. "Hey," he said cheerfully, like we were old acquaintances. "Everything okay?" The question hit me wrong. Yeah, I said. Why? He laughed softly. Of course it is. Just checking in on you. The way he said it, like he had a right to, made my skin crawl. Oh, I said, forcing politeness. Are you a neighbor? I didn't realize. No, he replied quickly. Too quickly. I was just walking around. Walking around, twice, to my door. Okay, I said. Well, I'm fine. I closed the door before he could say anything else. I stood there, heart pounding, listening. After a moment, I heard his footsteps retreating. I texted my sister that night. Did you ever see a guy around our place? Tall, dark jacket, kinda creepy? She replied almost immediately. Nope. You're paranoid. Lock the door and chill. I tried. But that night, every creak of the house sounded louder than usual. The following day, nothing happened. No knocks. No strange men on the sidewalk. I started to relax again, convincing myself I'd blown the whole thing out of proportion. Then came the last night my sister was gone. I had the day off. I stayed inside, binge-watched YouTube, ordered takeout, peeked through the windows more than I cared to admit. Everything felt normal. Until around 8 p.m., I was sitting on the couch when I heard something scrape against the side of the house. It wasn't loud, just deliberate, like a stick dragging along the siding. My chest tightened. I stood up slowly and pulled back the blinds. The bush beneath the window shook violently. I heard footsteps running away. I felt sick, like my body knew something my brain was still trying to deny. I called my sister, hands shaking so badly I almost dropped my phone. I was rambling, talking too fast, trying to explain. That's when the knock came. Hard, aggressive. Hey, a man's voice called. Please, I need help. It was him. I didn't answer. I'm hurt, he said, banging on the door. I just need to come inside for a minute. I backed away, tears burning my eyes. Please, he continued, his tone shifting, apologetic now. I'm sorry if I scared you earlier. I didn't mean anything by it. He kept knocking. Louder, desperate. My sister shouted through the phone, "Call 911, now." I did. He stayed there for 5 minutes. 5 long, terrifying minutes. Talking, knocking, trying every angle. Then finally he stopped. I never saw him again. I don't know what he wanted. I don't know how long he'd been watching. But I know one thing for sure. Being alone doesn't mean being safe. I didn't plan on being out that late. New Year's Eve was never a big deal to me, not after the last couple of years anyway. Too many crowds, too much noise, fake countdown energy. But my friend Riley had been on my case for weeks, saying I'd turned into a hermit, that I needed to get out of the house more. Just show up, he'd said. Have a drink, say hi to people, bounce early if you want. That sounded reasonable enough. I lived alone in a small split-level house on the edge of Westfield Terrace, one of those quiet American neighborhoods where every driveway had the same oil stain and every porch light stayed on all night. I'd been there for almost 3 years. No roommates, no pets. Just me, my couch, and a job that paid the bills but drained the life out of me. I worked logistics for a regional supply company. Early mornings, late nights, always on call. The upside was decent pay. The downside was, I was almost always exhausted. Most nights I parked my car in the driveway, locked the door, microwaved something, and passed out with the TV on. New Year's Eve was supposed to be different. I drove to Riley's place just after 10. Music was already thumping through the walls when I got there. There were people I didn't know, faces blurring together in that way they do when everyone's holding red cups and pretending they're closer than they really are. I drank more than I should have. Not blackout drunk, nothing like that, but enough that the room stayed warm and my head felt tight behind my eyes. Whiskey mostly. Someone kept topping me off. At some point after midnight, the headache kicked in hard, like a nail driven right behind my forehead. I checked my phone. 1:27 a.m. Yeah, I'm done, I muttered to no one in particular. Riley tried to get me to stay. Crash here, man. Couch is open. I shook my head. Nah, I want to be home. I ordered an Uber. My car stayed behind in his driveway, something I barely thought about at the time. That mistake almost cost me everything. The Uber dropped me off just before 2 a.m. Cold air slapped me awake the moment I stepped out. My neighborhood was dead quiet, the kind of quiet you only get after holidays when everyone's finally asleep or passed out. No fireworks anymore, no cars, just the hum of distant traffic and the crunch of my boots on the driveway. I remember fumbling with my keys like my hands didn't belong to me. Dropped them once, swore under my breath. My head was pounding now, full-on migraine territory. Come on, I whispered, finally getting the door open. I stepped inside, locked the door, or at least I thought I did, and kicked my shoes off. Everything else followed. Jacket, wallet, phone, keys, all dumped on the floor by the door. I dry swallowed an ibuprofen in the kitchen, didn't even bother with water, and collapsed onto the couch in the living room. The TV was off. I didn't turn on a light. I just laid there with my eyes closed, listening to my own breathing, waiting for the headache to fade. Time got fuzzy after that. The doorbell woke me. At first I thought I was dreaming, that half-awake state where sounds bleed into your thoughts. But then it rang again, and again, sharp, loud, insistent. I groaned and rolled onto my side, burying my face into the couch cushion. Jesus, I muttered. I didn't get up, didn't even open my eyes. My brain registered the fact that it was the middle of the night, that no one rings a doorbell at 2 a.m. for a good reason. But the alcohol dulled the urgency. I just wanted the noise to stop. After maybe the fourth ring, it did. Silence settled back over the house. I don't know how long it took, but eventually, exhaustion won. The headache faded into a dull throb, and I passed out right there on the couch. When I woke up again, something felt wrong. I was groggy, dry-mouthed, my limbs heavy like they were filled with wet sand. The house was dark, darker than before. No ambient light from the TV, no streetlight glow through the windows. I pushed myself up slowly. My head still hurt. Bad. I need water, I whispered to myself. As I stood and turned toward the hallway, that's when I saw it. A thin streak of pale light on the wall. Moonlight. It was cutting across the hallway at an angle that didn't make sense. My stomach tightened. The front door was partially open, just a few inches. Enough to let the night spill into my house. I stared at it, my brain struggling to catch up. Did I forget to close it? Did I really mess up that badly? Before I could take a step closer. Footsteps, upstairs, clear as day. I froze. Every trace of drunken fog vanished in an instant. My heart slammed into my ribs so hard it hurt. I didn't even breathe. I just stood there staring at the hallway like it might bite me. Another step, then another. Not heavy, not rushed. Casual. There were two of them. Oh no. No. I whispered, panic crawling up my spine. I backed up slowly, then dropped behind the couch, crouching low, pressing myself into the corner. The couch was set diagonally, half blocking the living room from the hallway. From where I was, I could see the stairs, but anyone standing near the couch could easily see me if they looked down. I wrapped my arms around my knees and waited. The footsteps moved closer to the top of the stairs, then stopped. I heard the front door close. The light vanished. "All right," a man's voice said casually, like he was starting a normal workday. "Let's get this done." I felt ice run through my veins. They thought the house was empty. I realized it immediately. They'd checked upstairs first, bedrooms, bathroom, closets. Didn't see anyone. Didn't hear anything. That's why they were so relaxed. That's why they were talking. They moved through the house like they belonged there. One of them laughed quietly. Man, people really still don't lock their doors. Wild. Don't jinx it, the other replied. Just grab and go. Drawers opened. Cabinets. I heard glass clink softly. Something metal slid across wood. They talked about random stuff. Traffic, a busted phone charger, someone named Cole, who apparently owed one of them money. Just normal conversation, like they were hanging out in a garage instead of robbing my home. That somehow made it worse. My heart was racing so fast I thought I might pass out. I kept telling myself to stay still, stay quiet. Don't cough. Don't move. Don't breathe too loud. Footsteps entered the living room. Closer. One of them brushed against the coffee table. Something shifted. I squeezed my eyes shut. The footsteps angled toward the couch. I could feel them now. Vibrations through the floor. I opened my eyes just enough to see a shadow fall over me. A head appeared above the couch cushion. He was looking down, checking between the cushions. He didn't see me. Not fully. I don't know how. Maybe the angle. Maybe the darkness. Maybe pure luck. After a second that felt like a lifetime, he moved on. They finished up quickly after that. More footsteps. The front door opened again. Cold air rushed in. Then it closed. Silence. I stayed there shaking, for a long time. Too scared to move. Too scared to breathe. That was the night I learned how thin the line really is between normal life and something much worse. And it wasn't over yet. I didn't move for a long time after the door shut. I stayed curled behind the couch, knees tight to my chest, ears straining for any sound that meant they'd come back. My heart was still hammering so hard it made my vision pulse. Every little noise, the fridge kicking on, the house settling, felt like footsteps returning. I checked my phone. 3:41 a.m. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped it. I waited another 10 minutes, then 10 more. Only when my legs started cramping did I finally risk moving. I lifted my head just enough to look over the couch. The living room was trashed. Drawers pulled out. Couch cushions tossed aside. My laptop was gone from the desk. The TV stand was open, wires hanging loose. Whoever they were, they knew exactly what to grab and what to ignore. Fast, efficient, quiet. I crept toward the front door, every step careful, every muscle ready to bolt. The lock was still intact. No damage, no broken frame. That's when the reality hit me. They hadn't broken in. They'd just walked right in. I backed away from the door and ducked behind the couch again, finally doing what I should have done the moment I woke up. I called the police. The operator answered quickly. 911, what's your emergency? There were people in my house, I whispered like they might still hear me. I think they just left. I'm hiding. Okay, sir. Stay where you are. Are you injured? No, I don't think so. Did you see them? Not clearly. 2 men. They were upstairs. They thought I wasn't home. She told me officers were on the way and to stay put. I stayed crouched there until red and blue lights washed across the walls, and a knock echoed through the house. Police! Anyone inside, announce yourself. I stood up slowly, hands shaking, voice hoarse. I'm here. I'm the homeowner. They cleared the house before letting me move. 2 officers, one older, one younger. Both calm, both serious. You're lucky, the older one said quietly while writing notes. This could have gone real bad. I nodded, still trying to process everything. They asked questions, took statements, walked through the rooms with me. My bedroom upstairs had been searched thoroughly, closets opened, nightstand emptied. The realization that they'd been that close, standing where I slept every night, made my stomach twist. One of the officers paused by the front door. You said you locked this? I thought I did, I said. He pointed to the latch. No signs of forced entry, but this here? He tapped the frame. Looks like it's been tested before. They might have tried it other nights. That part came together later, A neighbor named Tom knocked on my door the next afternoon. Older guy, lived across the street, retired, always outside messing with his truck. "I didn't want to freak you out," he said, rubbing the back of his neck, "but I saw a couple dudes hanging around your place last week, sitting in a car, watching. Thought maybe they were friends. They'd been casing my house. They knew my routine. They knew I lived alone. They saw my car missing that night, and when I came back in an Uber instead of driving home, they assumed the house was empty. The doorbell ringing wasn't random, it was a test. I didn't sleep in that house for weeks. I stayed on friends' couches. I jumped at every noise. Every creak made my chest tighten. I replayed the moment over and over. The way that man's head appeared over the couch, the casual tone in his voice, how close I'd come to being found. If they'd checked the living room first, if I'd gone to bed upstairs, if I'd woken up 10 minutes later. I changed everything after that. New locks, security cameras, motion lights, alarm system. I never forgot to lock my door again, not even to check the mail. I got my car back the next day, but I still flinch sometimes when I hear tires slow down outside at night. Because the scariest part wasn't that my house was robbed. It was knowing I was home the entire time, listening, breathing, hidden only by luck. And luck doesn't always hold. I didn't think twice about taking the job. That should have been my first warning. At the time, I was just trying to keep my head above water. Rent was due, my old job had cut hours, and I needed something steady, nothing fancy. The place was a small specialty retail shop tucked into a half-forgotten strip mall just off Route 17. About 20 minutes outside a town most people only pass through. If you blinked, you'd miss it. The strip mall sat alone, surrounded by open land and pine scrub. The kind of area where cell service dropped randomly and nights felt heavier than they should. There was a nail salon that closed early, a dollar store that somehow stayed open forever, a vape shop run by a guy who never smiled, and a laundromat that smelled permanently damp. My shop was right in the middle. Most days were quiet, too quiet. The kind of quiet where you start talking to yourself just to hear a voice. Locals came in regularly. Same faces, same trucks, same small talk. Cold enough for you? Road construction's never gonna end. You close early tonight? You learn to recognize people fast out there. Even folks you don't know personally feel familiar. Outsiders stick out immediately. Wrong plates, wrong clothes, wrong way of looking around. That's how it always was. And that's why Ray stood out. Everyone knew him. Nobody knew about him. Ray had been hanging around the strip mall longer than anyone could remember. Some said he used to work construction. Others claimed he had family nearby once. Nobody really knew the truth, and honestly, nobody pushed for it. He was homeless. That part was obvious. What wasn't obvious, at least at first, was how bad things were getting with him. When I started working there, Ray still looked human. Rough, sure, dirty clothes, unwashed hair. But he could hold a conversation. He'd nod at you, say mornin', ask politely if you had spare change. Over the months, then years, he deteriorated, slowly. Like rust, he started wearing layers, hoodie over flannel over jacket, even in July heat. His pants sagged lower every time I saw him, dragging around his ankles like he was borrowing someone else's legs. His shoes split open. His beard turned into something closer to a nest. His eyes were what bothered me most. They were always bloodshot, glassy, unfocused, except when they weren't. Sometimes he'd stare at nothing for hours. Other times he'd lock eyes with you like he was trying to look through you. He disappeared often, days at a time, sometimes weeks. We'd notice. "Anybody seen Ray lately?" Someone would ask while taking out trash. "Nah, hope he's all right," someone else would say. Then one morning, there he'd be again, sitting on the curb, like he'd just hit pause on existence and pressed play again. I felt bad for him. I still do. I'd bring him coffee sometimes, a sandwich if I had one. He'd take it with shaking hands, mumble something that might have been thanks. There was this quiet, shared understanding among us workers. Ray was our homeless guy. We kept half an eye on him. Not officially, just humanly. None of us ever imagined he was anything else. I worked mostly closing shifts. That meant I was often alone after sunset. The strip mall at night was a different animal. Parking lot lights hummed and flickered. Wind dragged debris across cracked asphalt. Every sound echoed just a little too far. When the other shops closed, the place felt abandoned. I'd lock up around 9, sometimes 10, step outside, scan the lot. Same routine every night. Ray usually stayed near the curb, a good distance away. He never bothered me directly when I was closing. That was something I appreciated. Until the day I realized he was watching. It wasn't obvious at first. Just a feeling. You know how sometimes you can feel eyes on you, even when you can't see them? That. One night I glanced over as I was pulling the gate down and caught him looking straight at me. Not blank, not distant, focused. I told myself I was reading into it. Everyone looks sometimes. Still, I made sure my car keys were between my fingers as I walked to my car. A few months later, I took a day off and drove into the city. Big city, crowded, loud, concrete everywhere. About 80 miles away from the strip mall, far enough that it felt like another world. I needed the break. I was standing in line at a food truck, phone in hand, zoning out the way everyone does when they're waiting. The smell of grilled meat and grease hung thick in the air. People laughed. Music played somewhere nearby. Normal. Then that feeling hit me again. That pressure between your shoulders. Someone staring. I looked up casually, expecting nothing, and my brain short-circuited. The man behind me looked exactly like Ray. Same facial structure, same narrow chin, same sharp cheekbones, same eyes. But everything else was wrong. He was clean, immaculate, well-groomed. His hair was trimmed perfectly, his beard shaped neatly. He wore a fitted jacket, clean jeans, expensive shoes. On his wrist, an Apple Watch. In his hand, a brand new iPhone. A leather shoulder bag hung comfortably against his side. For a split second, I honestly thought I was hallucinating. No way, I told myself. Just a look-alike. But then he smiled, and I saw the missing tooth. Same one. My heart stuttered. I shifted forward as the line moved. So did he. Closer than necessary. I felt his presence behind me, too close for comfort. I stepped slightly to the side. He adjusted with me. Then he leaned in. "I know where you work," he said quietly. His voice was calm, educated, controlled, not Ray's slurred mumble. My mouth went dry. "I think you've got the wrong person," I said. He smiled wider. "Miller's Crossing," he whispered. "That little strip mall off Route 17. My skin prickled. "How do you—" I started. He leaned closer. I could smell mint on his breath. Clean. Fresh. "I know when you're alone," he said. I stepped back hard enough that I almost bumped into the person behind me. "Hey man," I said, trying to laugh it off. "You need to back up." He straightened, unbothered. The food truck guy called out, "Order for Gavin." The man stepped forward, picked up his food, and glanced back at me one last time. Same eyes, same smile. Then he vanished into the crowd. I didn't finish my meal. Back at work, things felt wrong. Ray was gone. Not unusual, but it stretched on longer than normal. 3 days. 4. People noticed. "Ray missing again?" someone asked. "Hope he didn't freeze somewhere," another replied. On the 5th day, I saw him. Same curb, same layers, same filth. Like he'd never left. I stepped outside, heart pounding. "Hey," I said carefully. "You been into the city lately?" His head snapped up. The change in his expression was instant. Fear, rage, something darker. He leaned forward, close enough that I could smell alcohol and rot. "If you tell anyone," he slurred, "I'll kill you." My blood went cold. I don't know what you're talking about," I said. "You didn't see me," he hissed. I ain't homeless. He started rocking, muttering, getting louder. People stared. I backed away and called the police. By the time they arrived, Ray was gone. After that day, I stopped sleeping properly. It wasn't the kind of fear that makes you jump at every sound. It was worse, quieter, the kind that settles into your bones and refuses to leave. I'd lie in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying his voice in my head. I know when you're alone. I told myself I was being paranoid. That's what everyone tells themselves before things go bad. Ray didn't come back. Days passed, then weeks. At first, that should have been a relief. No more tension when closing. No more scanning the lot for him. No more wondering if he was watching. But instead of relief, I felt uneasy. Ray disappearing wasn't normal, not for this long. People asked about him less and less. Life moved on. The strip mall stayed quiet. Too quiet. One night, as I was locking up, the vape shop guy leaned out his door. "You all right?" he asked. "Yeah," I said. "Why?" "You've been jumpy lately," he said. "Just be careful out here." That night, I checked my back seat before getting in my car. I started noticing small things. A car parked across the lot longer than usual. Footsteps behind me that stopped when I stopped. A faint smell of mint near my apartment building one evening. Fresh, sharp, out of place. I live alone. That fact never bothered me before. Now every creak of the floorboards sounded intentional. Every distant noise felt like it had purpose. One night, around 2 a.m., my phone buzzed. Unknown number, no message. Just a missed call. I blocked it. The next night, another call. Different number. Still no message. I started sleeping with the lights on. A month after Ray vanished, I was closing alone again. It was late. Later than usual. The parking lot lights flickered, casting long, broken shadows. Wind pushed trash across the pavement. The highway was quiet. Too quiet. As I pulled the gate down, I heard footsteps. Slow. Measured. Not rushed. I turned. He stood near the edge of the lot. Clean. Well-dressed. "Gavin." He smiled like we were old friends. "Long night?" he asked. My throat went dry. "You can't be here." He tilted his head. "Funny thing about public spaces," he said. "They're public." I reached for my phone. He noticed. "I wouldn't," he said calmly. "Cops take a while to get out here, you know that." My heart hammered. "What do you want?" He stepped closer, stopping just under the light. "I wanted to see if you'd figured it out yet," he said. "Figured out what?" "That Ray isn't real," he replied. The wind picked up. I could hear it whistling through broken pavement cracks. "He's just what people need him to be," Gavin continued. "Invisible, disposable." I swallowed. "You threatened me?" He smiled. "No. Ray did." He took a step closer. "I like knowing people," he said softly. "Knowing their routines, their habits. When they're alone." My hands shook. "I called the police," I said. He laughed quietly. "I know." I backed toward my car. He didn't follow. "Sleep well," he said. "You look better when you're tired." I drove home shaking so badly I had to pull over. That night I didn't sleep at all. Around 3:40 a.m. I heard something. A soft knock. 3 taps. I froze. It came again. Knock, knock, knock. I didn't answer. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. This time, a text. "You're home." I was right. I grabbed my keys, my phone, and ran out the back door barefoot. I didn't look back. I stayed with a friend that night. The next morning, I went to the police. I told them everything. They took notes, asked questions, promised to look into it. They never found him. A week later, I quit my job, moved, changed my number. I don't live alone anymore. Sometimes, when I'm out in the city, I catch reflections in windows that look familiar. Sometimes late at night I swear I smell mint. And sometimes I wonder how many other people waved at Ray while Gavin watched. I used to think my house was boring. That's probably the most dangerous thought a person can have. I moved into that place a little over a year before everything happened. It was a single-story rental on the edge of a quiet town most people passed through without noticing. The kind of place where folks waved but didn't really know each other. I liked that. After my divorce, quiet felt safe, predictable, nobody asking questions. I worked long shifts at a warehouse just outside town, 10-hour days, 4 days a week. Hard work, but it paid the bills. Most nights I came home sore, microwaved something unhealthy, watched whatever was on TV, and went to bed early. Rinse and repeat. The only thing that ever broke the routine was my dog. Her name was Luna. She wasn't big, maybe 40 pounds, but she acted like she owned the block. Smart eyes, alert ears, the kind of dog that noticed things before you did. I trusted her instincts more than my own, probably more than I realized at the time. That night started like every other night. I got home around 7:40 p.m., tossed my boots by the door, and collapsed onto the couch with a sigh that came from somewhere deep in my chest. My shoulders ached, my hands were raw, and my brain was fried. Luna followed me into the living room, tail wagging slow and lazy, like she was just as tired as I was. "Long day, huh?" I muttered, scratching behind her ears. She sneezed and flopped onto the rug. I turned on the TV, not really watching anything, just letting the noise fill the room. I ate crackers straight from the box, drank a warm soda, and stared at the ceiling while my mind wandered. Nothing heavy, just floating. Around 9, Luna stood up. She stretched, yawned, and walked toward the back door. I glanced over. Yeah, I got you." The backyard was small, chain-link fence, patchy grass, woods pressed right up against the far side. I never worried much about her back there. She'd sniff around, do her thing, maybe bark at a raccoon if one got brave. I opened the door, let her out, and left it cracked while I stacked dishes in the sink. That's when she started barking. Not playful barking, not warning barking. This was different, sharp, repetitive, aggressive. I froze with a plate in my hand. "Luna?" I called out. The barking didn't stop. I walked to the door and stepped halfway outside. Cold air rushed in, carrying the smell of wet leaves and dirt. Luna was standing at the fence, hackles raised, body stiff, barking at one specific spot near the trees. "Hey," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. "What is it?" She didn't even look back at me. I scanned the fence line. Nothing, just darkness and tree trunks. No movement, no sound. "Probably a damn possum," I muttered, though my stomach tightened. I whistled. "Inside. Now." She hesitated, then finally backed away from the fence and came in, still glancing over her shoulder like she expected something to follow her. Once inside, she didn't relax. She didn't lie down. She sat at the edge of the couch, ears forward, eyes locked on the back door. "Knock it off," I said softly. "You're fine." She flicked her eyes to me for half a second, then back to the door. I tried to laugh it off. Dogs get weird sometimes. I'd seen her act protective for no reason before. Still, something about the way she stayed frozen like that put me on edge. I double-checked the lock on the back door, then the windows. Then I sat back down and told myself I was being paranoid. By 10:30, I was exhausted. I turned off the TV and headed to bed. Luna followed me but didn't jump onto the mattress like usual. Instead, she sat near the doorway, watching the hallway. I left the bedroom door cracked. Always did. Her food and water were in the kitchen. "Come on," I said, patting the bed. She didn't move. "Suit yourself," I muttered, already half asleep. I woke up suddenly, not from a noise, from that feeling, the one where your body knows something is wrong before your brain catches up. The room was dark, silent, and the bedroom door was wide open, way more open than I'd left it. My heart started pounding. "Luna?" I whispered. No nails on hardwood, no jingling collar, no movement. I sat up slowly, listening. Nothing. I swung my legs off the bed, every sense screaming at me now. The house felt wrong, like the air had changed. I stepped into the hallway. "Luna," I called again, louder. Still nothing. I walked down the stairs, each step creaking louder than it ever had before. The living room was exactly the same as I'd left it. Couch, TV, shoes by the door. I rushed into the kitchen. Her bowls were full, food untouched, water untouched. My stomach dropped. "Luna?" My voice cracked. That's when I saw her. She was crouched under the kitchen table, pressed low to the ground, shaking so hard I could hear her claws clicking against the tile. Her eyes were wide, locked on me, not relieved. Terrified. "Oh my God," I whispered. I stepped closer. Hey. It's okay. It's just me." She didn't move. Then I noticed it. The back door was open. Not cracked. Open. Cold air poured in, carrying the smell of the wood straight into my house. Every hair on my body stood up. Someone had been inside. I didn't scream. I didn't think. I just grabbed Luna, held her tight against my chest, and ran, out the back door, through the yard, through the gate, barefoot on cold concrete, lungs burning. I banged on my neighbor's door like my life depended on it, because it did. When they opened it and saw my face, they didn't ask questions. They called the police. The officers searched the house. They didn't find anyone. But they found shoe prints in the dirt, on the porch, in the hallway, upstairs. Someone had been walking around my home while I slept. I still don't know how long they were there. I still don't know where they were hiding when I looked for Luna. And that's the worst part. Because sometimes, not knowing is scarier than the truth. I was 13 when it happened, and for a long time after that night, I couldn't sit in silence without feeling like something was watching me. I grew up in a quiet neighborhood on the edge of a small town called Ridgeway Park. The kind of place where kids rode bikes until the streetlights came on and everyone knew everyone else's business. Our house wasn't big, but it felt open. Too open, honestly. The back of the house faced the street instead of the front, and upstairs there was a narrow balcony that ran across 2 bedrooms, my mom's room and mine. Both rooms had large double glass doors that opened onto it. Thin curtains. No bars. No alarms. Just glass. 2 old trees stood right beside the balcony. One of them leaned close enough that I used to climb it when I was younger, pretending I was sneaking out like in movies. My mom yelled at me for it once and said, "You're gonna break your neck, kid." I stopped climbing after that, but the tree was still there. Close. Too close. That night, my mom had taken my younger brother to stay at my aunt's place across town. I didn't go because I had school the next morning, and honestly, I liked having the house to myself sometimes. It made me feel grown up. I remember it clearly because it was a school night. A normal night. Nothing special. I was in bed reading with a little clip-on light attached to my book. The rest of my room was dark except for the glow from the street lamp outside, which leaked through the curtains and painted faint yellow lines across the floor. I was halfway through a chapter when I heard something outside. At first, I ignored it. We had possums, bats, sometimes cats jumped between the trees. You got used to noises like that living where we did. Leaves rustling, branches creaking. Still, after a few seconds, the sound didn't stop. It wasn't fast or chaotic like an animal. It was slow, careful. I lowered the book slightly and listened. Scrape, shift, scrape. Probably the wind, I muttered under my breath, even though the night was dead still. Then I saw it. A shadow moved across the curtain. Not fast, not sudden. It glided. My stomach dropped instantly. Before my brain could catch up, my hand snapped up and turned off the reading light. The room went completely dark. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. The shadow was tall, taller than my mom, taller than anyone I knew my age. It passed slowly across the glass doors, the streetlight behind it creating a perfect black silhouette. I could tell one thing immediately. Whoever it was trying not to be seen. They can't see you. I whispered silently to myself. They can't. But I could see him. He stopped near the edge of the doors, just out of sight, like he was listening. My heart was pounding so hard I was scared he could hear it through the glass. Then I heard the sound that changed everything. Click, rattle. Someone was testing the handle. Not my door. My mom's. Oh God, I whispered. I slid out of bed as quietly as I could and crept to my bedroom door, my bare feet freezing against the hardwood floor. I twisted the lock and eased the door shut, praying it wouldn't creak. From the balcony, the handle rattled again. Come on. Come on, I thought. It didn't open. Relief flooded through me so fast I almost cried. It's locked. He can't get in. I stood there, frozen, listening. Footsteps. Light. Slow. Deliberate. They moved back along the balcony, toward my room. The shadow reappeared behind my curtains, stopping directly in front of my doors. I clamped my hand over my mouth. I watched as the shadow of an arm lifted. A hand reached for my handle. My mind screamed. Did you lock it earlier? Did you? You were out there this afternoon. Did you lock it? The handle turned. Once. Twice. It didn't open. I almost collapsed from relief. For a moment, everything went quiet. Then the footsteps started again. He paced back and forth across the balcony like an animal trapped in a cage. I wanted to run. I wanted to scream. I wanted to call the police. But I had no phone. The landline was downstairs, on the other side of the house. And there was no way I was taking my eyes off that shadow. Tears rolled down my face silently as I hugged my knees on the floor, staring at the curtain like it might burst open any second. Then he stopped moving. I heard his voice. Low, calm, casual. I could just break the glass, you know. I swear my heart stopped beating. Before I could even process what he said, headlights swept across the street outside. A car slowed, turned, pulled up to our gate. My mom's car. The shadow jerked back instantly. I heard a loud thud as something hit the ground below the balcony. Then footsteps running. Fast. When my mom came inside minutes later, I was still on the floor, shaking so badly I couldn't stand. She rushed to me, grabbing my shoulders. What happened? What's wrong? There was a man, I sobbed. On the balcony. He tried to get in. Her face went white. She called the police immediately. They searched the area but didn't find anyone. One of our neighbors, though, mentioned seeing a dark pickup truck idling on the street earlier. It matched a vehicle police had already been looking for linked to attempted child abductions near my school. A block away. I stopped walking alone after that. I stopped sleeping with my curtains open. And even now, more than 10 years later, I still lock every door twice. Because sometimes, being home alone is the most terrifying thing there is. I was 10 years old this spring. Everything in my life still felt simple on the surface, even though I didn't yet have the words to explain the quiet unease I carried around back then. I didn't know how to name instincts or how to trust them. I only knew rules. Listen to adults. Don't cause trouble. Don't exaggerate. Don't be dramatic. That spring break, my parents packed the car and drove us north to Clearwater Ridge, a sleepy Midwestern town where my grandmother lived. Everyone called her Nana Joe. Her house sat at the end of a narrow street lined with bare trees, the kind that creaked when the wind hit them just right. Spring hadn't fully arrived yet. The air still smelled cold, like wet pavement and old leaves. My cousin Tessa Brooks had come too. She was 8, short, skinny, always half hidden behind my shoulder. Tessa trusted me completely. Wherever I went, she followed. Whatever I said was law. That responsibility made me feel older than I was, like I had to be brave even when I wasn't. On our second day there, Nana Joe asked, "Do you girls want to go to the wellness center for a few hours?" She meant the Riverside Wellness Center, a place everyone in town treated like a second home. It had a basketball court, a pool, workout rooms, and things we weren't allowed to use like the sauna. "Yes," I said instantly. Tessa nodded hard. "Yeah, I'll drop you off and pick you up in 4 hours, Nana Joe said. Stay inside. Don't wander. And listen to staff. Okay, we both said. The automatic doors whooshed open when we arrived, releasing that familiar mix of chlorine, rubber mats, and something metallic. The building felt hollow that day, too quiet. A couple of adults jogged on treadmills behind glass. A man lifted weights alone in a corner. The front desk worker barely looked at us. For the first 2 hours, everything felt normal. We played tag on the basketball court until our sneakers squeaked and our throats went dry. We shot hoops and missed more than we made. Eventually, boredom settled in. The pool? Tessa asked. I shrugged. Sure. The pool area was empty except for one lifeguard sitting high in her chair. I'll call her Miss Calder. She wore a red sweatshirt, her hair pulled tight, her face unreadable. She didn't greet us. She just watched. We swam laps, splashed, made up stupid games. Time slipped by. Eventually, there was nothing left to do. I'm bored, Tessa said, clinging to the pool edge. I looked up at the big clock mounted on the wall. Let's see who can hold their breath the longest. We stood in the shallow end beneath the clock. Instead of fully submerging, we leaned forward, faces in the water, eyes open. First round I won. Second round I won again. On the last round, my chest burned, but I pushed through. I was winning when I felt a tap on my shoulder. I popped up, grinning. You gave up already? It wasn't Tessa. It was Miss Calder. Knock it off, she said flatly. That's unsafe. Oh, sorry, I muttered. If you keep it up, I'll have to ask you to leave the pool. We didn't argue. We were already cold and done anyway. Let's just get dressed and go back to the court, I said to Tessa. As we climbed out, Miss Calder stopped us. You girls want to warm up in the sauna? She asked. My heart jumped. A sign nearby clearly read 18 and over only. Really? I asked. She nodded, just for a few minutes. Tessa looked at me, eyes wide. I hesitated for maybe half a second, then nodded. She led us down a short hallway to a glass door. Inside, everything was wood, walls, benches, floor. Above the door hung a clock. A thermometer was mounted on the wall inside a clear plastic case. Miss Calder unlocked the door and ushered us in. She followed, unlocked the plastic case, and turned the knob on the thermometer. I couldn't see the numbers, we were too short, but I saw her hand twisted higher. It's cold in here, Tessa whispered. It'll warm up, Miss Calder said. Then she stepped out. The door shut. I thought I heard a click. At first, the heat felt nice. Comforting. My skin tingled. We sat on the wooden bench, wrapped in towels. I'll check the time, I said, looking up. 10 minutes. 15 max. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. The air grew heavier. Breathing felt thick. It's hot, Tessa said quietly. Yeah. Let's go. I stood and grabbed the door handle. It didn't move. I tried again. Harder. Nothing. Maybe it stuck, I said, trying to sound calm. Tessa tried. Same result. We waited. 5 more minutes passed. The heat climbed fast now. Not comforting, aggressive. I walked to the glass door and banged on it. Hey, we're done. Miss Calder sat at her stand, staring straight ahead. I banged harder. We need to get out. Nothing. Tessa joined me, screaming, kicking the door. Our voices echoed uselessly. The air burned my lungs. My eyes stung. Sweat poured down my face. We sat back down, towels over our heads. The damp fabric made breathing slightly easier. Riley, Tessa whispered, her voice shaky. I don't feel good. I checked the clock. 35 minutes. My head spun. I stood again and staggered to the door, screaming until my throat burned. Miss Calder didn't move. A thought crept into my mind, cold and terrifying. She didn't forget us. At 45 minutes, nausea rolled through me. The benches burned my skin. My towel was dry now. Tessa lay face down, unmoving. I nudged her. Hey, stay awake. She groaned. Then I saw movement outside the glass, a man walking past, summoning everything I had left. I stumbled to the door and pounded with all my strength. The man stopped. He returned moments later with Miss Calder. Relief flooded me until I saw her pull out her keys. She unlocked the door. I grabbed Tessa and shoved toward the opening as the man tried to enter. Miss Calder pushed back with the door. "I think they want out," the man said, confused. His name, I later learned, was Ron Whitaker. Miss Calder sighed and opened the door fully. We ran. We didn't speak while we changed. We didn't speak in the car. When we got home, I told my parents everything. They didn't believe me. "You probably misunderstood," my mom said. "A sauna can feel hotter than it is," my dad added. I learned something that day. Not about saunas, about disbelief. I'm 21 now. I still panic in small, hot spaces. I still wake up gasping sometimes. I still wonder what would have happened if that man hadn't walked by. I don't know what Miss Calder's endgame was. I only know this. She didn't forget us, and I don't think she ever planned to let us out. I was 17 the summer my parents decided I was old enough to stay home alone for a weekend. That was how my mom phrased it, anyway, old enough. Like it was some kind of badge I'd earned instead of something they were doing because it was convenient. They had a place out near the coast. Not fancy. Just a weather-beaten little house they'd owned forever. And they liked going out there when the humidity got bad inland. 2-hour drive, maybe less if traffic behaved. "It's just Friday to Sunday," my dad said while loading bags into the trunk. "You'll barely notice we're gone." I nodded like I agreed. Truth was, I'd been looking forward to it all week. Before they left, my mom stocked the fridge like I was about to survive a blizzard. Aluminum trays of pulled pork, a big container of pasta salad, sandwich stuff, leftovers stacked like bricks. She pressed a couple of 20s into my hand even though I told her I didn't need them. "Pizza money," she said. "Just in case." They hugged me, reminded me to lock the doors, and promised to call. Then they were gone. The sound of the car fading down the street until the house felt too quiet all at once. That first night felt unreal in the best way. No footsteps upstairs. No TV murmuring in the living room. No one telling me to shut the lights off. I played Xbox until my eyes burned. Ordered wings. Fell asleep on my bed with the controller still warm in my hands. It was almost 3 in the morning when I finally passed out. So when I woke up the next day, sunlight was blasting through my blinds and my phone said it was after 1. "Damn," I muttered. I had plans to play street hockey with a couple friends around 3. I rolled out of bed, half asleep, and shuffled straight into the bathroom. I turned the shower on hot and climbed in, steam fogging the mirror almost instantly. When my parents were home, showers were a strict 10-minute affair. When they weren't, I went feral. I leaned against the tile, scrolling on my phone, letting the water pound against my shoulders. Reddit, Twitter, nothing important, just killing time. I remember thinking how good it felt to not rush. That's when I heard it, the sound of a door opening. It wasn't subtle. Our house was old, really old. The back door stuck in the summer and made this long, wooden groan whenever it opened. Same with the front. You couldn't sneak in or out even if you tried. The noise cut clean through the hiss of the shower. I froze. My heart did that thing where it skips and then starts beating way too fast, like it's trying to catch up. I stood there, water running, shampoo still in my hair. Listening. Nothing. No footsteps, no voices, no second sound. Probably the wind, I said out loud, trying to sound normal. But the words echoed weirdly in the bathroom, thin and unconvincing. I shut the water off and stood there dripping, listening harder than I ever had in my life. Every tiny sound felt amplified, the tick of the pipes, the hum of the fridge somewhere downstairs. After maybe 2 minutes of nothing, my brain kicked in. They came home early. That had to be it. Maybe it rained at the coast. Maybe they forgot something. It made sense. Way more sense than anything else. I wrapped a towel around my waist and cracked the bathroom door. The hallway was empty, quiet. I started down the stairs. Each step creaked under my weight. I took them slow, placing my feet carefully, even though I didn't really know why. The kitchen was around the corner at the bottom. I couldn't see into it until the last step. Halfway down, I stopped. Something felt off. Not a sound, just that heavy feeling you get when you know something isn't right but can't explain why. I stood there, hand on the railing, heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. "You're being an idiot," I whispered to myself. I almost laughed. Seriously. I remember shaking my head, embarrassed by my own fear. I was home alone. Not in a horror movie. I took a breath, stepped down the last 2 stairs, and turned into the kitchen. He was standing there, 2 feet away from me, right in the middle of the kitchen, like he'd been placed there on purpose. The first thing I noticed wasn't his face. It was his arms. They weren't hanging at his sides. They were twisted, rotated back and up in a way that didn't look natural. Elbows bent slightly, hands hovering behind him like he was mid-stretch or mid-performance. The angle was wrong. Anatomically wrong. He was tall. Taller than me. Dirty sneakers. Dark hoodie zipped halfway. And his face. He was smiling. Not a normal smile. Not friendly or awkward or nervous. Wide, fixed, like it had been carved onto his face. We stared at each other. For a split second, my brain just shut down. No scream. No thought. Just static. Then something primal took over. I stepped forward and swung. It wasn't a clean punch. More like a desperate slap fist, all panic and momentum. My knuckles connected with his jaw and I felt teeth clack together. He stumbled back, surprised, his smile breaking as he went down hard against the counter. I didn't wait to see what he'd do next. I ran. I bolted up the stairs, towel slipping loose, heart hammering so hard it hurt. I don't even remember grabbing my clothes. I just sprinted into my bedroom and slammed the door shut, locking it with shaking hands. I dragged my desk chair over and jammed it under the doorknob. Then I collapsed onto the floor and dialed 911. My fingers felt numb. I almost dropped the phone twice. 911. What's your emergency? There's a man in my house. I whispered, tears streaming down my face. My parents are gone. He was in my kitchen. Please. The operator told me to stay on the line. Asked for my address. Asked if I was hurt. I answered as quietly as I could. Then the light under my door disappeared. My breath caught in my chest. Someone was standing outside my room. I could see the shadow shift slightly, blocking the hallway light. My whole body went cold. I clamped a hand over my mouth to stop myself from making a sound. The operator kept talking. "Sir, can you hear me?" I couldn't answer. The shadow moved. Slowly, back and forth, like he was adjusting his stance. Waiting. I curled up against the wall, phone pressed to my chest, staring at that thin line under the door like it was the only thing in the world. I don't know how long it lasted. Minutes felt like hours. Then the light came back. Footsteps creaked down the hallway. Slow. Unhurried. I stayed frozen long after they faded. When I finally heard pounding on the front door and voices shouting, "Police," I broke down completely. 2 officers stood in the hallway when I opened my door. One of them caught me as my knees gave out. I couldn't stop shaking. They searched the house, every room, every closet. He was gone. No signs of forced entry. No fingerprints they could find. Just my towel on the kitchen floor and a faint smear on the counter where he'd hid it. My parents drove back that night. They don't leave me home alone anymore. Sometimes, late at night, I still picture him standing there perfectly still, arms twisted wrong, smiling like he knew something I didn't. The police never found him. And that's the part that still keeps me up. I still remember the smell of salt before anything went wrong. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't eerie. It didn't feel like the start of a horror story. It just smelled like the ocean. Warm, damp, and familiar. The kind of smell that sticks to your clothes and makes you feel like you've escaped something, even if only for a few days. Spring break had finally come, and for the first time in years, life felt light. I was 21, finishing my last semester of college, and exhausted in a way only seniors understand. Everything ahead of me felt uncertain: jobs, money, where I'd live, but for that 1 week, none of it mattered. All that mattered was the coast. My best friend Ryan had invited a group of us down to Pelican Key, a quiet stretch of beach in Florida that most tourists skipped. His dad had bought a condo right on the water, one of those concrete places with sliding glass doors and balconies that looked straight out over the ocean. It wasn't furnished much. A couch, a table, a few mismatched chairs. But to us, it was paradise. Ryan made it clear before we even packed the car. "Look," he said, gripping the steering wheel as we pulled out of town. "My dad trusts me with this place. We party, fine, but nothing gets broken. No cops, no damage. Relax." Cole laughed from the back seat. "We're adults now." Ryan didn't look convinced. He was always like that, wound a little too tight, always worrying about consequences. That's probably why what happened later hit so hard. By the time we arrived, the sun was already dipping low, turning the sky orange and purple. The condo smelled new and empty, and the sound of the waves rolled in through the open balcony door. Someone cracked the first beer before our bags even hit the floor. "Here's to being done with college," Landon said, raising his can. We all cheered. At first, Ryan barely drank. He hovered near the window, checking the locks, glancing at the neighbors' balconies. Then someone said, "Come on, man, it's your place. At least enjoy it." We made a dumb deal. Ryan wouldn't pay for alcohol, since it was his condo. I can still hear myself saying, "He deserves it." I didn't realize we were setting a trap. Once Ryan started drinking, he didn't stop. Beer turned into shots. Music got louder. The room filled with laughter, bodies slumped on couches, empty bottles rolling across the floor. Ryan changed. He got louder, looser, sloppier. "Man, you're killing it," Cole joked as Ryan downed another beer. Ryan grinned, eyes glassy. "I'm just getting started." By midnight, most of us were already toasted. The music faded into background noise. People sprawled out, scrolling phones, half asleep. That's when Ryan jumped to his feet. "Yo," he shouted, "why are we sitting around like we're 80? Groans filled the room. "It's midnight," someone muttered. Ryan waved them off. "The night's young, quitters." He shoved drinks into people's hands, slammed another beer himself. Then he said it. "Let's hit the beach." Something about it flipped a switch. The ocean was right there. No streets to cross, no crowds, just us. "Isn't it closed?" someone asked. "That's the best part," Ryan laughed. We didn't even change clothes. Shoes were kicked off. Laughter spilled down the stairs and onto the sand. The beach was dark, new moon, barely any light except the distant glow of condos far down the shore. The water looked like black glass. "Skinny dip," Ryan yelled. People laughed. Someone hesitated. Then shirts came off. Pants hit the sand. I won't pretend it was anything more than stupid, drunk confidence. We ran into the water together, whooping as the cold hit us. The waves were bigger than they looked. Stronger. We waded out until the sand dropped away. Ryan kept going. "Dude, that's far enough." I called. He didn't hear me or didn't care. He was swimming now. Strong strokes cutting through the dark. I followed, trying to keep him in sight, but the waves rose and fell, blocking my view. My stomach churned. The alcohol, the motion, it all hit me at once. "Ryan," I shouted. Nothing. I swam farther, panic creeping in. The cold bit through my muscles. My arms felt heavy. "Ryan." Still nothing. Behind me, voices drifted faintly from shore. I realized how far out we were. My chest tightened. I couldn't keep treading water much longer. I turned back, swimming hard toward the sound of my friends. When my feet finally touched sand, I stumbled forward, coughing, shaking. They were all there, huddled together, cold and sobering up fast. Except one. "Where's Ryan?" I asked. They looked at me. "We thought he was with you." We ran to the pile of clothes. Ryan's were still there. That's when everything collapsed. Flashlights swept the water. Names were screamed into the dark. Nothing answered back. Someone called 911 with shaking hands. The police arrived, asking calm questions that felt unreal. They told us the tide was strong. Search teams would have to wait until daylight. We stood there, silent, broken. Then a wave rolled in and brought Ryan back with it. He didn't look like himself. He didn't look like anyone I knew. Someone screamed, I don't remember who. I just remember the smell of salt again, and realizing spring break was over forever. I learned very early in life that doors don't always keep people out. By the time I was 17, I already knew the sound of panic. Real panic. Not the kind you get from a scary movie or a loud noise, but the kind that sits in your chest and refuses to move. The kind that tells you something is wrong before your brain can explain why. Growing up, our house never really felt safe. We lived on a quiet residential street in a small town outside Ridgewood, the kind of place where people waved at their neighbors and left porch lights on out of habit. But strange things had a way of finding our front door. When I was younger, there was an old man who used to show up late at night, banging on our door like he owned the place. He'd shout my name, my actual name, demanding to see me. My mom would shove me into a bedroom or the bathroom, whispering for me to stay quiet while she dealt with him. Another time, a man showed up holding a knife, screaming that we were hiding someone from him. He'd gotten the wrong house, but that didn't stop him from rattling the door handle like he was ready to come in. Those moments never really leave you. They sit in the back of your mind, waiting. So by the time November 2018 rolled around, I was already cautious, hyper-aware, especially when I was home alone at night. It was one of those early winter evenings where the darkness comes way too fast. Around 6 p.m., the sky was already pitch black. The air had that cold bite that seeps into your bones, and the streetlights outside cast long, warped shadows across the road. I had just gotten home from work, kicked off my shoes, and headed straight upstairs. My room was at the end of the hallway, overlooking the backyard. I flopped onto my bed, laptop open, YouTube playing some random video I wasn't even really watching. Downstairs, I heard my mom moving around. "Hey," she called up the stairs. "I'm gonna grab your brother from work and swing by the gas station. You want anything?" "No, I'm good," I shouted back. "Don't lock yourself in," she joked, half laughing. "I won't," I lied. I heard the front door close. A second later, the familiar sound of her car pulling out of the driveway faded into the distance. I was alone. That eerie quiet settled in, the kind you feel more than hear. But I told myself it was fine. I was 17. This wasn't new. About 10 minutes later, I heard noise downstairs. At first, I barely reacted. Just some shuffling, a light thud. I rolled my eyes, assuming it was our cat knocking stuff over near his food bowl. He was always dramatic when it was empty. I reached down to scratch his head, and my hand touched nothing. I froze. Slowly, I looked down toward the foot of my bed. He was sitting there, staring at the door, completely still. I paused the video. The noise came again. A dull bang, then another. From downstairs, my stomach tightened. "It's fine," I muttered to myself. "Probably my brother." A few seconds later, I heard what sounded like keys jangling, metal clinking together, then dropping, then more banging. That's when my brain tried to make it make sense. "Oh, he's home early," I whispered. Probably pissed about something. My brother had a temper. Loud noises weren't unusual for him, so I let it continue. But it didn't stop. Bang, clink, thud, bang again. Something about it felt off, wrong. The rhythm wasn't right. It wasn't someone unlocking a door. It sounded like someone trying to. My chest started to feel tight. I stood up and quietly opened my bedroom door. The hallway light was off. The house felt colder than it should have. I moved slowly, sitting down on the stairs halfway, holding my breath. The noise was coming from the back of the house. The kitchen. That's when the fear really hit me. That wasn't my brother. I knew the sound of his footsteps. I knew the way he slammed doors. This was different, desperate, aggressive. My heart was pounding so loud I was sure whoever was downstairs could hear it. I told myself I was being stupid. That anxious thoughts do this to me all the time. I needed to just face it. So I stood up. Every step toward the kitchen felt heavier than the last. The house creaked under my feet, and I hated how loud I felt in the silence. The kitchen door faced straight into the backyard. As I turned the corner, bang, something crashed. Then I heard running. Fast footsteps. Retreating. I rushed forward, my hands shaking. The cat flap on the back door was gone. Not broken, ripped off. Plastic pieces were scattered across the kitchen floor. Cold air poured in through the hole where it used to be. I felt sick. Still, my brain tried to protect me. Maybe it was an animal, I whispered. Maybe a raccoon, or something. But deep down, I knew. I backed away slowly and sat on the stairs again, my legs trembling. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely unlock my phone. I called my mom. She didn't answer. I called again. This time, someone picked up. "Yeah?" My brother said. Loud road noise in the background. "Are you home?" I blurted out. "What?" "No." "Why?" My voice broke. "Please be serious. Are you home right now?" "No," he snapped. "We're still driving. What's going on?" I started crying. "There's someone here," I said. "Someone was trying to get in." "What?" His tone changed instantly. "What do you mean?" "They ripped the cat flap off," I sobbed. "I heard them." "Call the police," he shouted. "Right now." "Mom, turn around." I hung up and dialed emergency services, locking myself in my room. My cat followed me, tail puffed up, hiding under my bed. The dispatcher tried to keep me calm. "Stay where you are," she said. "Help is on the way." That's when I heard it again. Voices, footsteps, doors opening downstairs. They were back. I broke down completely, whispering into the phone. "They came back. They're here." The dispatcher stayed with me until headlights flooded the driveway. My mom's car. My brother. Police lights flashing red and blue. Officers rushed through the house, weapons drawn, shouting commands. They didn't catch anyone. But when they examined the back door, everything made sense. The spare keys had been sitting on the kitchen counter. The intruders had grabbed a broom from outside, snapped it in half, shoved it through the cat flap opening, and knocked the keys down. They'd been trying to pull them out. Only one thing stopped them. When they broke the broom, it also snapped the door handle from the inside. If it hadn't, they would have gotten in. I would have been upstairs, quiet, unaware. They'd been watching, waiting, timing it perfectly for when my mom left. And when they realized I was inside, they came back anyway. I didn't sleep in that house for weeks. Even now, years later, I still double-check every lock, because doors don't always keep people out. I never thought I was the kind of person who scared easily. I grew up in normal houses, normal neighborhoods. I'd stayed home alone plenty of times before. Nothing dramatic ever happened. No break-ins, no stalkers, no almost moments people talk about online. That's probably why I didn't take the early signs seriously. I was 23 when my boyfriend Logan and I moved into that place. A small duplex on a quiet side street. The kind where cars barely passed after dark. The rent was cheap, the walls were thick brick, and the yard was enclosed by a tall wall that made it feel private, safe. Even. We'd only been there about a month. Boxes still unpacked. Furniture still not fully arranged. The house still didn't feel like ours yet. That night, Logan went out drinking with coworkers from his IT job. He told me he'd be late. Maybe really late. I didn't care. I was tired and looking forward to having the evening to myself. I ordered Chinese food, kicked my shoes off, and settled into the couch with the TV on low. The kind of night where time just melts away. At least, it was supposed to. The first noise was easy to ignore. A faint metallic clink from somewhere downstairs. I paused the show and listened. Nothing. "Old house," I said out loud, mostly to convince myself. I ate, scrolled on my phone until the screen dimmed, then remembered I was out of credit anyway. No calls, no texts, no data. I plugged it in and tossed it aside. That should have bothered me more than it did. Around 9, I heard it again. This time it wasn't a clink. It was a slow, deliberate scrape, like something being dragged carefully across metal. I muted the TV and sat up straight. My heart started beating harder, the way it does when your body knows something your brain hasn't caught up to yet. "Logan?" I called, even though I already knew the answer. Silence. I stood up and checked the front door. Deadbolt locked, chain intact. I looked through the peephole, empty porch, quiet street. The back door was locked too. Everything looked normal. I told myself I was tired, maybe just jumpy. I grabbed my laptop and went upstairs to the bedroom, leaving the house dark except for a small lamp. Upstairs felt different, quieter, heavier. I put on music, opened my laptop, and tried to focus. The glow from the screen barely lit the room. That's when I heard it again. Rattle. Very soft. Almost polite. I froze with my hands on the keyboard. The sound stopped. I held my breath, listening so hard my ears hurt. Nothing. I turned the music back on. 10 minutes passed. Then came the sound that changed everything. A long, slow screech, metal on metal. It wasn't loud. That was the worst part. It sounded like whoever was making it was trying not to be heard. I shut the laptop and stood up, my stomach twisting into knots. I crept into the hallway and leaned toward the stairs, listening. That's when I heard voices. Male voices. Low. Whispering. Not inside. Outside. My mouth went dry. I moved toward the back of the house where the bedroom, bathroom, and small office formed an L shape around the yard. The yard was enclosed by a tall brick wall, with a heavy wooden gate that opened into a narrow alley. I peered down from the bedroom window. Nothing but darkness. Then I heard it again, closer now. Yeah, this is it. Seen the gear. Wait. I dropped to my knees so fast my palms stung against the floor. There was no mistaking it anymore. They weren't passing by. They were talking about my house. I crawled into the bedroom and grabbed the only thing that felt even remotely useful, a heavy iron rod we'd found stuffed in the wardrobe when we moved in. I remembered joking about it earlier, calling it a serial killer weapon. It didn't feel funny now. I didn't turn on any lights. I didn't want them to know where I was. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the rod. I crept into the bathroom and climbed onto the ledge beneath the small window that overlooked the alley. I cracked it open just enough to hear. Girls alone. One of them whispered, "Lights'll go out soon." The other replied, "Easy job." My chest tightened like someone was squeezing my lungs. They knew. They had been watching. A sudden bang slammed into the gate. I jumped, biting down on my sleeve to keep from screaming. Another hit. The gate rattled violently. I could see the shadow of it shaking against the wall. I remember thinking, very clearly, that gate is not going to hold. I backed away, clutching the iron rod, my mind racing through useless plans. Hide under the bed, lock the bathroom door, jump out the window and run barefoot. Then light. Blinding, sudden light. For half a second, I thought they'd found me. Then I heard a dog barking. Furious, loud, shouting. A floodlight from the house across the alley snapped on, flooding the yard and alley in harsh white light. Shit. One of the men hissed. Move. Footsteps pounded away down the alley, fast and panicked. I stayed frozen where I was, my entire body trembling. When Logan finally stumbled in drunk at around 4 in the morning, I was still sitting on the bathroom floor, iron rod in my lap, eyes burning from not blinking. In the morning, the damage told the rest of the story. The gate hung by a single hinge. The lock was destroyed, scratched, bent, gouged like someone had tried to force it open with tools. I stood there staring at it, my stomach turning. If that neighbor hadn't turned on their light, I don't know what would have happened. And that's the part that still haunts me. Because sometimes, the only reason you're safe is because someone else woke up at the right time.